All right, everyone, remember how patriotic the Patriot Act was? Or, clean coal, it's actually like really, really clean. A lot of times you can take something that ultimately is not good and repackage it, rebrand it, and you can convince people that it is good using simple psychological tricks. That's what's being done right now to the concept of online censorship. You have big tech firms, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, working with groups like the ADL and the SPLC, attempting to say to you, well, we're just trying to fight hate. Don't mind us. We're fighting hate online. So we're using algorithms. We've got new moderators. We've got trusted flaggers. We've got all of these little systems, both automated and manual, both human involved and completely automatic, to try to stop hate online. Now, number one, why exactly is it necessary to stop hate? In the more general sense, I'm not talking about people who are saying, well, I'm gonna go, attack people for their views or the color of their skin. Okay, it's criminal. It's fine. That's been something that they've always been going after. I mean, like people that are bullying other people, saying offensive things, not criminal, not systemically hate-filled, just mildly offensive in some way. Like they say, well, yeah, I don't agree with this social policy that Merkel supports, so that would be considered, I guess, offensive by Germanic standards. Why exactly is it compelling, number one? Number two, how are you accurately going to even identify such material and not screw others? Because YouTube comes out and says, well, our new moderating staff that we hired, they're going to make mistakes. It was a mistake that they banned dozens of pro-Second Amendment channels that in many cases don't really touch upon politics. It was, it was a mistake that these left-wing commentators that were refuting or mocking extreme right-wing viewpoints, it was a mistake that they got kicked off the platform. It was a mistake that InfoWars got the second strike on a years-old video. It was a mistake that these videos got sandboxed. It wasn't really a mistake, it was a flawed rollout is what it was. A flawed rollout of policies that were pre-existent, that were misapplied to people because computers don't understand satire and sarcasm. It seems a lot of humans have problems with it too. They don't understand the difference between something that's tongue-in-cheek and something that's meant to be taken literal. And they don't have a sense of humor. Look, when you look at a laundry list of the groups YouTube in particular is working with, all they're trying to do is repackage censorship. Censorship is censorship. The concept that a state or a corporation should be telling you what is or is not appropriate to say outside of proper legal bounds is total bullshit. It's still just censorship. But they're trying to repackage it. They're putting a bow on it. They're putting some wrapping paper on it, trying to sell it to you. They're trying to give you a pig in a poke, essentially. They've convinced people that there is a systemic problem with extremism and hate online. Now, as somebody who has spent some time online, who makes a living online, I'm telling you there is no such problem. I schmooze in with people who you would probably consider to be a bit out there. Most of these people are not hate-filled. They have differences of opinion with maybe the neoliberal core of society within the United States or Western Europe. That does not make them hateful. Most of these people are not extremists. There are some that are. They have extreme viewpoints. I think an unbiased perspective would declare them to be. Even then, though, many of them aren't criminal. Many of them, they're not going to attack somebody in real life. They may harass them online. Okay, if harassment is against the TOS of a site, obviously, they get a strike for that, or some moderator says cut it out. That's perfectly fine, but we've got this repackaging of a broader sense of censorship at this point that they want to apply to, it seems, judging from the slew of people who have been abused lately, applies to people whose beliefs are vaguely populistic, too libertarian, they don't like censorship enough. Certainly, algorithms on YouTube running haywire have severely demoted a lot of people's content as well. You've seen, I'm sure a lot of other creators can vouch for this. In the last few weeks, you've probably seen a drop-off in the number of subscribers you're getting, the number of views on your content. That's not because you're doing something different or doing something wrong. It's because their algorithm now favors priority creators and people who are lamestream, people who don't rock the boat. They have very, very calm, very, centrist views. They're being favored now. It was like months ago. I think it was about 2 months ago, when one of these legacy media sites said, well, YouTube is algorithmically manipulating content. This is a problem because it favors, extremist and clickbaity stuff. No. Actually, the opposite is true. It's algorithmically manipulated, but it favors lame streamers. It favors people that do legacy media clickbait. It favors CNN's live stream of a police chase over something that might be a little bit more intelligent. Therein lies the problem. When I see, by the way, lame streams, when I see CNN openly gunning for a media competitor like InfoWars, I don't have to like InfoWars or agree with what they say. But isn't it a little bit odd? Does it strike even people who aren't, like, you're not a libertarian, you're not even on the right, maybe you're a leftist. Doesn't it strike you as slightly odd that some multi-billion-dollar corporation can write up a hit piece about a competitor and say, well, you know, we're talking to YouTube about this, we want them kicked off the platform? Don't you think that's a little bit of a conflict of interest when they are directly competing for money? They're directly competing for views? And it's the same thing. Look, in the last few weeks, I've noticed, it seems like there are a number of coordinated assaults going on between the legacy media and some of these NGOs and sympathetic ears within these big tech firms. There is a reason why I'm putting more focus now on other sites. There's a reason for that. Very wisely, I think, a couple of years ago, in the immediate wake of the election, I decided it was no longer prudent to just have a presence on YouTube. I mean, 1 year ago. It was no longer prudent just to have a YouTube presence. At that time, I made a Facebook page, and an official one for myself, and a Twitter handle as well that had been dormant, but started using it. It became clear that even that wasn't enough, though. Now I'm on BitChute, I'm on Minds, I'm on Gab, I've got a Steemit account that I still have to tinker with. The reason that people are doing this, it's not just me, it's many creators, is because of a repackaging of censorship online that is going to overhaul the technological paradigm, and these big tech sites, in all likelihood, here's the problem, it may not be immediate, but over time are going to slide into irrelevance and go MySpace mode, because they will tinker with their algorithms too much, they will abuse one too many users or the wrong person, and they will go kaput. They will stop being cool. What builds a tech firm, what built YouTube was that it had cool content, it had stuff that was out there, stuff that in many cases was edgy. Weird music, weird independent content, bum fights, Tourette's guys, strange things, random humor, all of the stuff that now you would associate with like an edgier site, like a 4chan page. That's why YouTube grew in the first place. That's why Facebook grew. Originally, Facebook was just a connecting site for some people who happened to be in college. It was invite only. When it went mainstream, when it went public, what did it contain? A lot of independent apps that you could hook into your page, and all sorts of weird content was there. You know, they didn't have videos yet, but memes and pictures and stuff like that. Twitter. Now, what did Twitter become famous for? It didn't become famous for people saying, oh, you know, this morning I ate macaroni. No, that's a meme about Twitter. No, it became more used because of interesting content. So if interesting content is no longer to be allowed on YouTube, a lot of people just won't use YouTube. They'll find wherever the interesting content is made next. And people like myself who are already established on the platform, look, when I'm looking at InfoWars, I'm looking at a channel with over 2 million subscribers getting abused, getting openly debased and slandered by its competitor. YouTube doesn't say anything about that, doesn't rise up to defend one of its more independent creators that made it on the site and has millions of fans who like that content being there. When I see that, I say, well, you know, am I going to be welcome on the site? Sure, my material may not be as out there as InfoWars, but it doesn't seem to matter at this point. Because it seems a moderator can accidentally flag off your material and, you know, it's going to take you a week to get your channel restored anyway. Who's to say it doesn't happen again and again? Who's to say it isn't just a systemic harassment campaign by some NGOs that have taken CNN's money to try to kick all their competitors off? Stranger things have happened. You give them the ability to abuse a system like that, and they will abuse it. Of course they will. Money talks. And ultimately, somebody like myself, I'm not going to sit there and say, okay, well, yeah, I know they gave you $100 grand to kick me and a bunch of other creators off the platform, you know, on trumped up charges of being extremist or clickbaity or doing something wrong, being spammy. You know, here, I'll double the money so that you can, you know, leave us alone. You know, basically to the point where you could have an interesting scenario where some underhanded corporate executive working with an NGO that has this power could very well pay to have their competitors suppressed. Absolutely they could. And because there's a profit motive for that to happen, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? Of course it's going to happen. Of course it's going to occur because they're going to make money. A little bit of investment now pays off long term. By the way, they don't even care if the platform collapses. Hell, if YouTube were to collapse, CNN would be rubbing its greedy hands together and throwing back its head in wild laughter. Oh, thank goodness, all those independent commentators now don't have a home. They'll be in chaos for a few years. And next time, we'll get aboard whatever site comes quickly, very early on. We'll pump it full of money so we can control it from the get-go, and then we won't have this problem again. Guarantee you that's part of the plan. Just like I've expressed, I said, early on, long before any of this happened, I predicted that people who make independent content, whether it's entertaining or news-related, doesn't really mean. You saw PewDiePie was one of the earliest targets. We are ripe targets for defamation from these corporate sites and abuse from NGOs that ultimately just want to repackage censorship. All they want to do is censor. They need to pretend that there are problems and convince people that there are problems. And then if there are none, they have to make problems artificially. The easiest way to start a problem, probably, is to alienate enough of the YouTube and Facebook and Twitter user bases to cause enough chaos on those sites that actual hate emerges. Because people will then start to devolve into flinging hate. It'll crush the sites out of existence. Now, Google needs to understand this from the perspective of technological paradigm shift. This has already happened multiple times. You've already had similar problems whereby other media platforms, cable, radio, terrestrial radio certainly, and others have become dumbed down over time. Even satellite radio now is becoming dumbed down and more controlled. It's better than terrestrial radio, but even that has problems. No, the way to have a truly prosperous internet is to have it as much the Wild West as possible. Once big tech firms centralized things, it was only a matter of time before the fact that they have so much money and power would be exploited by other groups that have media allies capable of defaming big tech. Big tech should stand up for itself. So far, they've done a piss-poor job of it. They're cutting off their own heads by doing so. They're going to destroy their own platforms. I strongly suggest that people follow me on my other sites. I strongly suggest to creators that they have presences on these other sites. Maybe there's one or two you don't like. Okay, there are others to use. You don't have to, I like BitChute. You don't have to use BitChute. You can go to DTube. You can use, I think PewTube is still mildly operative at this point. There are other alternatives. Sure, they're not large yet, but YouTube at any given time could make the wrong move. They could actually kick InfoWars off the platform and alienate a couple million people. Don't you think that might cause a ripple effect with other creators being like, okay, fuck it. I'm obviously not going to be on the platform for long. I'm going to take most of my content elsewhere. Yeah, and then once those creators leave, once enough of those creators leave, you're going to see a mass exodus of users. It won't be like Adpocalypse, where people got mildly upset, but ultimately it was about money. It won't be like Limited State, where ultimately it was applied to so few videos so quietly that it didn't matter. This would be big news. It would be very transparent, very visible. It's a big difference between the two. Don't draw a false equivalency between them. So I think YouTube should tell these NGOs to stuff it, personally. Having new staff is a great idea. Actually checking things as opposed to just doing the computer, the algorithm-based censorship. But that doesn't matter if they apparently are poorly trained to the point where they think, oh, well, this video shows a dude holding a shotgun. That's not allowed on YouTube. It's a credible threat of violence or something. Well, no, clearly it's not. No sane person would think that. Who did they hire? Who are these people actually that got trained to be trusted flaggers in the first place then? It doesn't make any sense. That's about all. Peace out.